Columbia Crest Winery is located in the southeast part of Washington State. They are the largest winery in the whole Northwest USA. In 2009, Columbia Crest Winery was awarded #1 Spectator Wine with their 2005 Reserve Cabernet Sauvignon. In 2011, Columbia Crest Winery was recognized as Winery of the Year. Hi, I'm Mike Martin here with Holly Howell, and we're very pleased to have a huge winemaker here. This is Juan Muñoz-Oca from the Columbia Crest Winery in Washington State. He is the head winemaker. So glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, so glad to have you here. We've been talking about your wines quite a bit here at Marketview, and you do 3 levels of wines at Columbia Crest. You do the Grand Estates, the Horse Heaven Hills, and also the Reserve.
Right.
3 very different tiers. Can you tell us a little bit about your philosophy with each tier and
Of course.
with the food?
So we make 3 tiers that have the goal of actually walking the consumer through an introduction to Washington. That's Grand Estates, because you carry a Columbia Valley appellation, which is a very broad appellation in Washington State. So the idea is we introduce you to Washington. This is the lovely acidity that frames our fruit. This is the winemaking that you can expect from Washington. And then once you graduate from that tier, you spend a few more dollars for a bottle of H3. And the H3, we zoom in into a smaller appellation within the Columbia Valley, which is Horse Heaven Hills, which is home to our winery. We're one of the largest growers of grapes in the Horse Heaven Hills, and definitely the largest producer in the Horse Heaven Hills, so that's home. So we love showcasing the typicity of that appellation. And then once you graduated from the Horse Heaven Hills tier, we ask you to spend a few more dollars and buy one of our reserve wines. They are even more attached to a place, right? This is 2 or 3 blocks from a couple of vineyards. So we go big, Columbia Valley, Horse Heaven Hills, just a couple of vineyards. So that's our intent. So we can walk you through the Washington State wine country and take you to a more typical expression of each one of the varieties that we make.
Excellent. I love the Horse Heaven Hills, the new label, H3. I think that's genius. What is it about Horse Heaven Hills that makes it so special?
So there's this beautiful plateau that's framed to the north by the Horse Heaven Hills, and then all the way down, it's 25 miles, beautiful plateau all the way down south to the Columbia River. And not long ago, until the late 1800s, we did have up to 200,000 wild horses roaming around freely around that place, and that's where the name Horse Heaven Hills came up, because it was truly a horse heaven, right? It's a very special place. We have the influence of the Columbia River that's cooling the grapes during the morning. We have a lot of wind coming west, following the Columbia River that flows up to the hills, so it's very easy for us to get the vines under stress. They get stressed because of the wind, they get stressed because of the lack of rain on the east side of the Cascades, and all of that influenced them to put all their energy into the cluster, forget they have leaves and roots, and as winemaker, that's what you want. You want them working on ripening those grapes. It's just a wonderful place to grow grapes, and it gives us tools that not many other wine regions in the world have.
So the more stress, the better the wine.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. It
yeah.
sounds cruel, but it's really nice for us to be able to stress the vines at very specific times during the growing season. And you stress them and they focus all their energy into making better grapes that at the end are better wines.
And you have low rainfall there, so you can control that.
We have almost no rainfall during the growing season. We have only 6 to 7 inches of rainfall in a year, but most of it comes down in the winter. So between April and Halloween, when we pick our grapes, there's very little precipitation. So we mostly take the water from the Columbia River and we give it to the vines using drip irrigation, which is very precise and allow us to actually control how much water they get, and more importantly, how much water they don't get, to get them under stress.
I think that's the amazing thing about Washington that people are surprised to hear, because it's so much further north. In California, people think it's colder, but really the Columbia Valley is like a desert, isn't it? It's very hot.
It's really hot during the day, it's really cold at night, it never rains. We clocked in 320 days of cloud-free skies last year, 2014.
Wow.
It's impressive because we have on the Puget Sound, we have the wettest spot in the continental US. with up to 180 inches of rainfall in a year, and then you drive 4 hours to the east side of the Cascades and it rains 6 inches of rainfall. It's crazy. Yeah.
That mountain range really makes
It's
like
incredible.
two completely
All
separate
the
planets.
moisture stays on the west side, and then the air, as it goes through the Cascades, loses the humidity, and it gets dry and hot as it goes across to the east side.
So most of the vineyards are on the east side, I would say.
I'd say about 99% of the vineyards are on the east side. There's some grapes on the west side. We have actually an appellation called the Puget Sound appellation, but it's very little grape growing going on in the Puget Sound appellation.
It's cool. It's a Riesling, I've heard.
It's chilly and it's rainy, so it's
Yeah.
hard to keep the vines healthy. So yeah.
Juan, one of the things I wanted to ask you, you got to explain this crowdsourced Cabernet. It looks really, really interesting.
That's a great idea. It's a great idea. We sat down one day thinking about how can we open up the doors of the winery to people? How can we show people behind curtains what goes on when we make these wines? We feel like people won't drive 4 hours from Seattle to visit the winery, and we feel like there's a bunch of people all over the East Coast and the South and Southern California that won't get to go to Columbia Crest, and maybe won't get to see how beautiful the Columbia Valley really is to grow grapes. So the idea was to get them into the winery and show them what we do. So we created a website called crowdsourcecabernet.com. We prepare 5 acres of our state vineyard, our Cabernet, behind the winery. We set up some cameras, so you can go to crowdsourcecabernet.com and see real time what's going on out in the vineyard.
Yeah.
And then we asked the crowd to help us make that wine. And so throughout the growing season, the crowd was making the key choices that the winemaking team is faced with every week. Do we water the vines? Do we shoot thin? Do we green harvest? All the way through harvest, barrel selection, do we do pump overs, punch downs, we do rack and return. We went through the entire 2014 season. We put a wine in barrel. The wine is delicious, and we're going to do it all over again in the 2015 season at crowdsourcecabernet.com.
All right. Well,
before you go, I know your 2005 Columbia Crest Reserve won the best wine in the world on the Wine Spectator list a few years ago, and we currently have the 09 in stock. And I was wondering, before we finish here, would you kindly autograph a
Oh my
bottle
goodness, of
for
course.
the store?
Of course.
That would be
Of course.
fantastic.
That's my
Thank you
pleasure.
so much. You can do it for the store, but just put to Holly.
Okay.
Just kidding.
So, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
great honor.
Thank
Great
you.
honor to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Enjoy your
much.
stay.